And welcome into your local election headquarters right here on KRK.com and Fox16.com. I'm Mitch McCoy, glad to have you with us. We are on with the rest of the candidates running for the Little Rock Board of Directors, and I want to get now to our next guest. It's incumbent Director Joan Adcock. Director, it's good to see you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I am very happy that you are back with us again on the TV, because I always appreciate working with you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That means a lot. Let's get right into the questions, because we have a lot of loaded questions here. But the first one is, just tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know.
Okay, my name is Joan Adcock. I have been living in Little Rock since I was 12 years old. I graduated from Central High School. I got married right out of high school, and my husband and I built our home in Southwest Little Rock, and I still live in that home today. I spent 35 years in the retail clothing business. I had 2 children's clothing stores in Little Rock. The name was Young Land Children's Store. One was in Southwest Mall, and the other was on Bowman Curve. One day I decided that I wanted to find out what else I wanted to do with my life. And so I closed up the children's clothing stores, and I founded a nonprofit welfare to work that was named the Hope Center. And in the Hope Center, we was able to assist 1,500 women and 51 men in coming off of welfare. It's not that we didn't like the men, but you had to be the custodial parent of children. So I spent 14 years with that. I think that is one thing where I found my passion for working so much with families and with children, and making sure that everyone had a safe place to live and a home that their children. So I did the Hope Center for 14 years. Under President Clinton, we was able to provide rental assistance, automobiles, classes. They could go to college. I even have one young woman who came through our program that had been on welfare that is now a principal in Little Rock. A lot of them are in teaching, a lot's in nursing, but even to this day, I see them in the community and everything, and they still talk about the changes that they made in their life, that they no longer are on assistance, and that they tell me that, Miss Joan, I am so happy. And so I did that for 14 years. The funding went away for welfare to work. And so since then, I have just been full-time as a Little Rock City Director. My position is 10. I am an at-large director. Anyone who's listening to this that is a citizen and lives in the city of Little Rock and is a registered voter can vote for the at-large directors. So that's kind of what I am. I do have 2 children. I have 10 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. So I know all about children. I understand the problems that we have in schools. I understand the problems parents have in trying to manage jobs and families. And I understand how important our youth programs are to the families in our city. So that kind of what I do and why I enjoy it so much.
Well, and you were talking a little bit about the youth programs. You may have opened up a door here for us to talk about what appears to be just crime issues in the city of Little Rock. We know that youth programs are important. We've heard that from the police department for some time. What is your opinion on the relationship between the Little Rock Police Department and the community? What ideas do you have to improve community policing, and how should the crime rate be addressed?
Okay, I want to address a thing you said just a moment ago first, and that is about our youth. With the budget cuts that we have taken, we have not had our community centers open since March. In Cloverdale particularly, the kids walk over to the Southwest Community Center and they get after-school tutoring. So I think right now, because of everything going on, that the part of our community that I feel like that we're not addressing the real needs of is our youth. We are no longer doing after-school programs. We have no summer programs. So that's one thing. We're getting ready to look at the budget, and that's one thing I want to make sure of, is that we go back to addressing the needs of our children. But on the police and the community, coming from Southwest Little Rock, we've had community policing out here, COP officers. I want us to go back to what our COP officers used to be. I got all excited here a few weeks ago whenever the chief's office called to tell me that we was getting 5 new, now they don't any longer call them COPs, they call them SROs, and that we was getting 5 new ones in every one of our precincts. And this was really exciting, except that they have not been able to start to work yet in our community. And the reason is that they're all assigned to weekend duty, chasing these automobiles around our city that's causing so much havoc in our communities and in our neighborhoods. So I'm ready to get back to we used to call them the police on the beat, where they go into the neighborhoods with the young people. They know all the young people. In the 90s, when I was first elected, we had COPs. And what happened was that they was with the community. They was out with the neighborhood. They knew the children. They knew that Bobby was getting ready to get in trouble, so they went and talked to mom and dad about it and everything. That's the community policing that I want to return to. I want to return to riding on bicycles, riding in the community with the kids. So I think that as we return them to the community, I think we're going to see a lots of down in our crime, particularly where juveniles are concerned.
Okay, so sticking with the Little Rock Police Department, there appears to be some apparent discord within the Little Rock Police Department. The police chief is facing multiple lawsuits from current and former city employees. The police chief, in his individual capacity, is suing Little Rock employees over civil rights violations. How do you plan on addressing these apparent issues within the city's police department?
Mitch, I'm sorry. It's unfortunate, but I cannot discuss this. Our city attorney informs the city board members that we cannot discuss anything to do with a lawsuit, either if it's a city being sued or if the city's suing someone. So since all of this is tied up in active lawsuits, as a city director, I would not be able to address those questions.
Okay, and maybe after the lawsuits are complete, you'd be more willing to discuss it, obviously on the advice now of the city attorney. This next question might be a little bit dear to your heart. The board's at-large positions have always been a hot topic. Do you believe the board should be restructured?
No, I don't. We spent lots of time with Future Little Rock and with Vision Little Rock looking at that. Even last year, there was a group of citizens, neighborhood people, business people that came together and looked at it, and they even came back with the no, it should not be restructured. Let me tell you some of my reasons why. Little Rock is a large city. We have 199 neighborhood associations. When I was first elected, we had 15. That was one of my first things, was going out and starting to organize neighborhood associations. Because as a Neighborhood USA member and as a person who's brought that conference to Little Rock now, getting ready for the 3rd time, I feel like neighborhoods is the most important thing in our city, that we have strong neighborhoods, that people feel like they're part. When you have ward directors, some people talk about ward politics. I'm not one that is going to beat the drum on ward politics, but when a person has a given area, they spend time in that area. And that's what a ward director needs to do, is spend time in their area, get to know everyone, get to know the needs. Every section of our city is different. The at-large directors look at the city as a whole. We look at, I've done the Animal Village. I've done some revitalization. The issues that I work on, the Neighborhood USA and everything, those are citywide issues. And so as at-large director, we look at citywide things. Whenever this virus started, they called on Dr. Campiris. He looked at it citywide. So I think that we add something to it. We are able to look at issues. Take, for instance, the infrastructure money. Each ward director got $2.6 million each 3 years to do things in their ward. Well, the at-large directors did not get a pot of money, but what we asked for, well, let's have an 8th pot, 7 wards in an 8th pot to look at the streets like University, like Canis, those streets that everybody uses. So a ward director doesn't have to take their pot of money to spend it on the major streets in our city. That separate pot is used for that. A lot of times, people, neighborhood people would decide, they will call and they would say, our ward director really thinks this is a good project, but our neighborhood doesn't. And that gives them somebody to talk to about something that maybe their ward director has a different point of view on. You have some people that say, I've talked to them and I just need to talk to somebody else. But the at-large directors give us an overview of the whole city, looking at insurance and other things for our employees. With the ward directors, they are working on their given wards and everything, what their needs are in their community. And as you can see, with 199 neighborhoods, everyone has plenty to do.
Yeah, well, you mentioned something about ward politics. I'd like to take a broader approach in our next question here. Some board members have been vocal in recent months about a disconnect between the mayor's office and some members of the board. How do you plan on working with executive leadership but still hold executive leadership accountable if you're reelected?
I think that we do that now. I think that we all respect each other's opinion. Sometimes if I feel very strongly about something, I can talk to the mayor and the other board members and everything and let them know exactly how I feel about something. And then we can, all work together. There's always my view, your view, and then we come together and talk about what is the best view for the city. And I think whenever we keep in mind, the bottom line is what is best for the citizens and residents of Little Rock, not what's best for me or what's best for the mayor or best for someone else, but what is best for this city. And I think as long as we all keep in mind that we serve the people of this city, we don't serve our own selves or somebody else, the mayor or somebody else, but we serve the citizens of this city, and they're the ones that we should be looking at what's the best for them.
So let's talk a little bit about neighborhoods. Some would say the city has taken a significant effort to revitalize neighborhoods. Others would disagree. What would you do to further revitalization efforts?
Well, I've been doing that for several years. Take the Love neighborhood. By the way, did you know we have a neighborhood named Love? We have one named Faith, and we have one named Hope.
I did know that. I did know that. But it's always one of those little gems of the city, right? It's a conversation starter.
Yes. Let's talk about the Love neighborhood. The city went in, we did neighborhood cleanups. We brought all the neighborhood people together. We had meetings for 1 year. We made a survey map. We knew every house that was rental, every house that was owner occupied, every house that was vacant. We studied every house in the Love neighborhood. After 1 year then, we went to the city and said, this is our revitalization plan. The city put in $72,000 into one house. We sold that house for $60,000. It was just like brand new. We sold it for $60,000, and you're sitting there doing your math, and you're saying 72 minus 60, you lost $12,000. No, sir, we didn't, because that brought us $200,000 worth of building permits for that neighborhood. They built 2 brand new houses in that neighborhood. People started fixing up. And so that is how, when the city comes in with some dollars and puts it in, you've got to study it first, you've got to prepare the people for it, but then you can start seeing revitalization. And we're still seeing that today. We are talking to UAMS. They are wanting about 30 houses in a given area. And I'm not going to tell you because right now they're looking at the land bank for some of those properties. And they're wanting houses where they can do what is called live local. The Med Center, Baptist, and Children's Hospital will be purchasing or assisting the purchase of these lots. The city will give them some of the lots and everything, and they're going to put housing on that. That's going to revitalize that whole corridor down through there. So there's a lot of revitalization going on. Revitalization is slow. It's not something you go in, you plop it down and say, okay, here it is. It takes the neighborhoods working with the city, looking at what dollars are available, if it's federal dollars, if it's private dollars, and how do we put all that together to start the movement. We've seen it going on in the Goodwill neighborhood. We're seeing pockets of it in several neighborhoods, and this is what revitalization is. It's slow, but it builds relationships in your neighborhood while you're doing it. Codes is part of it. Planning is part of it. It takes everyone to do revitalization.
Well, moving on to another conversation, this is about race relations. People have voiced concerns about a racial divide in the city, specifically using Interstate 630 as a reference point between poor neighborhoods, middle class, and upper class neighborhoods. What part will you have to help unite the city?
I think calling together some meetings. One thing I would like to point out is I am a city director that lives south of 630. Right now, we have very few city directors who live there. And I would like to say that I suggest that people, as they look at, who to vote for and everything, to look at where people live. I think that's important. I think that, I can understand a lot of what they're talking about, that there's some places that have more than. But I think here again, a lots of that, as we bring neighborhoods together and talk to people, we can see how we build the partnerships to change that. The mayor just unveiled a program that he is going to look at revitalization of Asher Avenue. Now, lots of people may not drive Asher. Whenever I come home from board meetings, that's the way I usually come home. I have a friend that teases me because she says I don't like interstates. I really don't. I like to drive through neighborhoods and see what's going on. But Asher is going to be a very interesting area to start looking at. We need to bring together now the neighborhoods along Asher that touches Asher. And as they're revitalizing Asher, say, okay, what can we put into these neighborhoods to start some revitalization where it's not one straight street, but we see the ripple effect as it goes further back into the community.
If elected, re-elected, I should say, what will you do to improve the quality of life for every citizen?
Listen to them when they call, listen to what their problems are, what their concerns are, and bring them in to discuss it. So many times we talk about we want to listen, but we don't create ways for them to talk to us. That's why the neighborhoods are so important, but we need to go a step further because, Southwest Little Rock has an organization called Southwest United for Progress. And it's made up of the 30 neighborhoods in Southwest Little Rock, and they meet once a month. So it's not Cloverdale talking or Wakefield talking. It's everyone coming together from this whole segment of the city talking about what are the needs for Guyer Springs, what's the need for Baseline. And we need to have those coalitions or those groups meeting in other parts where you bring several neighborhoods together. One thing I think that we do not use, and that's our quarterly meetings with the police department. Every 3 months, each of the substations have a quarterly meeting. Sometimes you may see 10 people there, maybe 12, maybe 15, but usually it's about 10 or 12 people. And when you look at, say the one in Northwest, there's probably 50 neighborhoods out there. And when you only are listening 10 people from those neighborhoods are coming to listen to what do the police say about their whole area. So I think we need to find ways to bring those meetings more to the people. Maybe the police substation is not the best place to have those. Maybe we need to have more out into the community. Make it more accessible for people. People want to they want you to be accountable, but they also want their meetings to be accessible. Maybe the times that we're having those meetings is not correct. We need to look at as important as public safety is to the people, and they have an opportunity to talk to the police officers from their area, the captains and the lieutenants and everything. Why are we not having more people attend those meetings? Look at having meetings maybe on even a Sunday afternoon when people don't have as much responsibilities to do. Mm-hmm. But I think that we need to listen, but then after we listen, we need to come up with some plans to address some of their concerns.
If re-elected, your term would consist of rebuilding the city's economy after the COVID-19 global health pandemic. Many businesses have been forced to close. What kind of experience do you have to ensure Little Rock not only bounces back, but grows to a new height?
I think my experience is all the experience I've been talking about, all the experience with the neighborhoods, with being a small business for 35 years, of starting a nonprofit from scratch with just an idea. I've always been able to, I'm the happiest, I think, when somebody calls me, if it's a business, if it's an individual, if it's a community, and says, this is the problem. Because then I get to research it, I get to help them develop a plan. How do we solve your problem? I think right now the biggest thing facing Little Rock in the next few weeks is the budget. We have done 2 budget amendments. We're going to do another one in another week or 2. We do not know exactly how our budget is going to look for next year. We've got to get these businesses open. We've got to get these businesses that close, see if there's any way that we can help them to reestablish their businesses. Most people that go out of business does not do it because they want to. It's because there's been a need or a problem. We need to look at what those needs and problems are. We need to see if there's some incentives. We've got the new report out from the port. There's been 7,000, with all this development out there, there's soon going to be 7,000 people employed, 7,500 people employed. There'll be 43 businesses out the port. Those are jobs. We've got to start looking at to make sure that our young people and our seniors are available for these jobs. I was on the Workforce Investment Board for a few years, and I found that they have so many programs available to retrain people, and yet lots of people don't know about them. I think that we need to have a workshop on a weekend that just talks about what is out here in our whole city. I would like to say, okay, let's look at just having a Saturday that people could come to look at all the opportunities that this city offers. Look at what's going on at the port. Let's look at the workforce. They have federal dollars to train people, for truck drivers, for lots of trades. And let's see what's out there. Most of the people, when you start talking about what's available, if it's available through housing, had a woman the other day tell me in the grocery store that her roof was leaking and she didn't know what she was going to do. And I said, have you applied to this? And she said, I didn't know anything about it. I think in some cases the city is a kept secret. And I think we need to open it up where people understand what we have available to people. All the stuff, with the community centers available for the youth, these after school programs that we have and everything. Sometimes we just don't let people know what we have available. And I would like to see, particularly with having the opportunity to say, okay, let's start over again. Let's show people what we have available and how they can use that. Last week, we found out that we have money available to help people with past due rent. And I would tell you, probably if you went out here on the street and asked a dozen people, they would not have any idea about that. And there's an application you fill out and some things you need to do. But most people don't know. If they wasn't watching the board meeting at a certain time last week, they probably don't know anything about it. And lots of people, I'm sorry, don't take the newspaper, and I don't know if that was covered by the TV stations, but that is something we should be out here really looking for people that can use this benefit.
Absolutely. Just a couple minutes left, Director, and we're on our last question. In recent years, and you mentioned the financial budget, in recent years, the city announced a financial struggle, which caused layoffs and park closures. If elected, how will you ensure the city avoids future layoffs and other closures?
Well, I think that is one of the hardest things for me to do, is to sit up there and know that something I do or have done is going to cause any person to lose their job. I came from a single mom with 2 children to support. I started to work. I lied about my age. I told them I was 15 and I was only 14 at 13th and Pine Street at a soda fountain when I was 14. I've lived through those types of things, and I know how hard it is on a family. And that's one of the hardest things for me, is I will about look at cutting anything before I will cut a job, a person. we've had to, this, with this virus is the first time that we have ever laid off a person without pay. And that was some of our part-time people after we had kept them for a while, and then it just became impossible. I want to make sure those people are the first people that get an opportunity to fill the jobs once everything gets going again. But the budget is going to be very, very important. You know, with at the Hope Center, I taught budgeting, and I taught you have needs, you have wants, and you have luxuries. We need to look at the needs of the city and make sure we're providing those before we start looking at and promising any luxuries. And then we have to look at the wants and make sure the wants are citywide and not for one area more than another area. We need to make sure that what we're doing is fair to all citizens, and it is particularly fair to our city as it tries to come back from what we've all been through and everything. We had to cancel the NUSA conference. We had it for 2020, and we had to cancel it. And so we're going to have it in 2022. That conference helps us build relationships citywide. We had already had 40 people working on that conference when it got canceled. We already had lots of the money raised to have that conference. We had workshops and everything. I want to pick up, and I want to make sure as we bring people in here from other states that they come with ideas and new ideas that we can pass along to the people here in Little Rock. But I think right now the budget is the most important thing that we're going to be looking at before we start any type of revitalization, any type of picking up and opening up. We need to know what our budget is and how it's going to meet the needs of the citizens and the residents of this city.
All right. Director, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
All right. Just a reminder, Election Day is November 3rd, folks. KRK4 and Fox 16, we are your local election headquarters leading up to Election Day and, of course, on the big day. Take care.